If they are S's and C's, they just love to sit at their desk and crunch those numbers for everybody. And for all you other leaders out there, this is important to keep in mind. They're not going to challenge the stronger personality. You know in your mind the entire thread of what's supposed to happen, but what comes out of your mouth might only be every fourth word. If you talk to that prospect the way you like to be talked to, you could be losing 70 or more % of your opportunities. Hi, I'm Jim Diebold. Welcome to the Adaptive Seller Podcast. Here we're going to explore how to have better sales conversations. We're going to do that by leveraging DISC behavior and communication styles. Before we start, click the link in the description to download the free guide. This guide is going to help you better understand how to communicate with your prospects and clients. For those of you who are listening in the car, let me run through the 4 styles. D is dominance. They're direct, they stick to business, they are your stereotypical type A personality. I is influence. They're social, talk with their hands, and big smiles, everyone is their friend. S is steadiness. They're loyal, they're empathetic, they're peacekeepers, tend to be risk adverse. C is compliance. They're the rule followers, they're process oriented, they like lots of data. With those things in mind, let's get to the episode. Hello again, everybody. Jim Diebold here with the Adaptive Seller. Welcome back to our podcast. Today, I have my good friend, Steve Loechtenfeldt, with us. Steve, before we get started, why don't you give the audience a little blurb about yourself?
Well, I have been in the mortgage industry for over 30 years. I've been helping families achieve the American dream of home ownership and helping families. I'm licensed in Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and I'm 65 years old, and everybody keeps asking me when I'm going to retire, and I still love what I do, and I love helping families, and I'm very interested on what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, me too. So, Steve, you're definitely a sales veteran, and our goal in this podcast is to talk about how we can have better sales conversations. And the foundation for having those better sales conversations is what we can learn from understanding a DISC assessment, or what DISC tells us about people's behaviors and communication styles. Now, Union Home Mortgage is an organization that very much believes in the information that DISC assessments provide. You're a seasoned sales guy. You have recently come into the Union Home Mortgage fold who believes in using DISC assessments. So this is a little bit newer for you over the last couple of years, right? So just give us a little idea of what it's been like for you kind of stepping into this type of content.
So that's so interesting you bring that up, because when they hire at Union Home Mortgage, a DISC assessment is one of the first things that is a must do before any hire.
Yeah.
And because when AmeriFirst merged with Union Home in 2023, I did not do a DISC assessment because I was acquired.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I joined a coaching program inside Union Home Mortgage, and they're talking DISC. And I'm like, So then when I find out what it is, how important it is to the company, I'm like, hey, I need to do one of these things. And then I ran into you.
Yep.
Jim Diebold. Hey, DISC. And then you said, hey, what? So I took my test, I shared, and you knew.
Yeah.
You knew before I even gave you my results.
Yep.
And I kind of knew before I got my results that I was going to be a very high D and a very high I and a very low C and a mediocrity S.
Yeah.
So, but the cool thing with Union Home Mortgage is about the team process, the team approach to problem solving.
Yeah.
And we work in teams and pods, and we're all partners, and we coach up all of our partners to be better every day.
Yeah, no, that's great. So another question comes to mind first is, after you learned about DISC, What would you point to say, like you said, you kind of already knew. Once you start to read the descriptions of what each letter's tendencies are, you're like, oh, I already know what the thing's going to say about me. Which is good as long as we're being honest on the assessment, right? It'll peg us really well. But what would you say you've kind of learned even more about yourself and others now that you have this kind of tool in your tool belt?
So the first thing was I was absolutely amazed because I don't think you can cheat on that test, because if you're even the slightly best honest, and I highly recommend you're honest as you can be, because it is a great self-awareness of where you are, how you communicate with others, because not only did I have the discussion with you, but I had this discussion with some of my business partners, some of my work partners. And the coolest thing about what I learned about myself is where my weaknesses were.
Yeah.
And I had to build my team to do the weakness part. I'm sorry, Union Home Mortgage, but I am the worst compliant guy in the world. And our business is based on compliance.
Sure.
Because they want to protect the consumer.
Of course.
From those, bottom
Shady
feeders.
folks.
Yeah. The bottom feeders that are unfortunately in our business. But anyway, it was assessing myself and filling in my weaknesses with my strengths of my partners.
Right on.
And that is where my team is like, for everything I'm weak at, they're really good at. And they don't want to go out on the streets.
Yeah.
They don't want to market mortgages. They don't want to socialize. They don't want to go to meetings. And that's my thing.
Right on.
So it's perfect.
Now, so kind of continuing down that path, we'll ask this question. Who would you say, and not necessarily a person, but a type of person, right? Because we're talking about disc styles. Who on your team is hardest to coach and why?
I am going to say myself.
Okay.
And the only reason is it's because I'm a high I and a high D.
Yeah.
I'm expecting them to be my high C and my high S.
Yeah.
And we don't have those direct conversations sometimes. So sometimes I'm throwing it at my team and they're like, what am I supposed to do? Because I'm assuming.
Yep.
Because I have these conversations. I'm building these relationships. I get that business. I hand it off because I want them to take it from contract to close. And I didn't share the story.
Yeah.
Because that's what I do is I have the story. I listen to my client. I define what their issues, what their concerns are. And I say, let's do it. And then I throw it at them.
So, Steve, you said some really good things there in regards to really leaning into your style. So that D and I both. So that direct person, we'll call it the domineering type person. And really, all D really means is how do you address problems and challenges? So we all address problems and challenges, but being a high D, you tend to be more direct with them. And being a high I, which is how do we engage people and contacts, you're a very social guy, you're very extroverted, very outgoing, right? So you are at all the meetings, all the events, all that stuff, rubbing elbows, meeting people, handing out a lot of Reds magnets for the refrigerator. I get one every year, which I appreciate, and I hand out the rest that you give me. All of that kind of stuff. But where does that style tend to create friction inside the office? And so that was a rhetorical question, by the way. So what I'm going to ask is, because it's along the lines of what you just shared, I just kind of dump it on my team. So you have two things going against you, really one, and then with what you've learned about how a D tends to function. So the big thing is you've been doing this for a long time. You know what you're doing. It's like blind, you can do it blindfolded, as they say, right?
Absolutely.
Really great at what you do, and you have kind of your system, your process, etc. Now, the strength slash weakness, we'll call it challenge, not really a weakness, right? It's just things that aren't as strong for a D, is short communication bursts, right? Bullet points. You know in your mind the entire thread of what's supposed to happen, but what comes out of your mouth might only be every fourth word, and it makes sense to you and not necessarily your team. Is that fair to say, at least in some respect?
It's not even fair to say. It actually just happened yesterday.
Okay.
So get a call from a referral partner, a realtor, having a challenge with a borrower. So I talk to the borrower. The borrower has some issues. Hey, my dad wants to help. Give my dad a call. I'm having a conversation with dad, seeing where dad is, feeling out where he is, because I said, hey, we can do this a few different ways. And these conversations are 30, 40 minutes because I was talking to the daughter, trying to figure out what her challenges were, what her dreams were, finding out that they already are under contract.
Oh.
So, yeah. So they're under contract. So I'm trying to put together. So I've got 40 minutes of conversation with two of my buyers, and I call my processor and I said, hey, we got 2 applications coming in, one from the buyer, one from a possible co-borrower. Let's get it done. And I didn't share my story. So this morning, I got up in the morning. I'm like, I got to share the story of what I talked to about the daughter, what I talked to about the father, where they're coming from, what our strengths, what our weaknesses are. And she's like, thank you, Steve, for explaining that, because I'm looking at this going, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
So it is. It's communication, and I've got to communicate better. I've got to tell a more descriptive story of what's going on so they can build what could solve all their problems, issues, and help that borrower get into a home.
That's a great realization. And delegation, we actually call it the art of delegation because it is actually an art, which is a whole separate conversation, by the way. But from a leader and communication perspective, something important to understand from the S or C type person, if that's who we're talking about in either your office or your support network somewhere in the UHM network, right? Your underwriters and whatnot. If they are S's and C's, which number crunchers traditionally are, because they just love to sit at their desk and crunch those numbers for everybody. This is important to keep in mind. And for all you other leaders out there, this is important to keep in mind. They're not going to challenge the stronger personality. It is not normal or comfortable, let me use that word. It is not a comfortable tendency for someone that's an S or a C to challenge a D. Because we're all smart people, and I can listen to you give me bullet points of information and process them all just fine. But then when I get back to my desk, because of how I function, I'm going to have 12 questions that if I would have taken 30 seconds to think through what you told me, I could have asked those 12 questions while we're together. But since I didn't, I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm doing and come back to you and ask those questions. So then what happens is I try to figure it out at my desk. Hours go by, a day goes by, and then Steve calls me and goes, hey, how are you doing on that? And I say, well, I'm not quite there yet. By the way, I have a couple questions for you. Just out of curiosity, have you ever had anything like that happen before?
Just happened yesterday. Seriously. Because I didn't, hey, what are we looking at? Hey, what kind of program are we going for?
Yeah.
But I'm not sure yet. Because I need to get all their information.
Sure.
I need to see their assets, their debt, their credit, their income. I need all that so I can help them on where they're at. So in the beginning, It's just an information exchange. I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to find out what the customer needs, and then I gotta figure out the best financial plan for them to meet their needs.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And this is great because we're talking about your communication style and we're talking about your team's communication style, what you're used to saying and how they're used to hearing, and then therefore how we function. So I came up with a little etiquette in this process that I believe to be accurate. And that is when you go to someone's office, which could be metaphorical, by the way, right? If you're sending someone an email, in this case, you're sending a support person for you an email, you are electronically going to their office. So you have to communicate the way that resonates the best with them. See, if you communicate the way you like to be communicated to, that's where wires get crossed and things become complicated. As a matter of fact, there's a statistic that the organization that we use to get our assessments from, over the decades that they've done this, if you communicate to someone the way, this is more of a sales thing, by the way, as a little qualifier. It's not talking to someone in your office. This would be talking to a prospect. If you talk to that prospect the way you like to be talked to, you could be losing 70 or more % of your opportunities because you're not connecting. Well, if you translate that into the office environment where you have someone who wants to perform well for you, but your communication style is bullet points and quickness, and their communication style is information and data crunching and time to do things, like it's obvious conflict, right? Unless you, because you're going to their office, so to speak, you take the time to pause, speak in full sentences with the full story, like you said, so that they can actually craft the entire scenario in their mind, understand what the expected outcomes are. Because that's another one where, how many times have you said, hey, do that, create the whatever for me, right? A comment in your office, and they do it, and then you go, that's not what I wanted. Yeah.
Happens all the time too.
Same thing.
Yeah. So you tell a marketing guy, hey, I'm planning on doing a perfect example when you and I did our disc lunch and learn.
Yes.
Hey, I'm going to do a disc lunch and learn with Jim Diebold on this date at this time. Get me a flyer together so I can share it with my business partners. And I got it back and I was like, no, that's not what I want.
Right.
And then that's when you said, hey, I got something to help you help them. And when you sent it to me, it turned out great.
Yeah.
Because now he's like, oh, now I know what you're doing. Now I know where, when, who, what we're going to talk about, what we're going to discuss, how we can make this a thing of value for our partners. That's why I'm bringing them to a lunch and learn.
Right.
Because I want to bring something of value because I want to help them grow their business.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
Good
this
stuff.
is really great. It's a great demonstration about how communication styles cannot jive and it creates friction. Well, let's take that same scenario now and go outside the office with prospects. Okay, prospects or even existing clients, but you're trying to do more or something different or whatever it might be with them, and it still creates challenges. So to set the stage, again, you've been at this a while, you understand what it's like to connect with people. But what can happen, and you might have to tap in your memory banks for some of this stuff, because many of us kind of learned by a school of hard knocks, right? Nobody told us these things when we first got started, or at least not usually. So we have a prospect. All the questions that you ask people, same questions you ask everybody. So the disc style has nothing to do with the questions you ask, because you need to know certain information from every single person. Credit score, their financials, like it doesn't matter if I'm a high D, I, S, or C, you need all the same information, right?
Every time.
Okay. So but that's where the commonality ends. Because now, as you're getting these people to dream about, like you said, home ownership, right? The American dream of home ownership. Once you do the rapport building part, maybe you ask some personal questions, right? Kind of break the ice, all those kinds of things. You get to the stage where, yes, we like this Steve guy. We're going to give him our information. Now, what happens in between all of those different pieces are how we're connecting or not connecting with them, right? If someone is a really high C and they want a whole bunch of information and they're asking a bunch of questions and your mind is maybe a little distracted, so you're not like on point, we'll say, your tendency is going to be to backslide to what a D would do, which would be to be brief, not detailed, kind of to the point, and hey, this is really simple stuff. Let's just look, here it is. Let's move on and try, and it'll feel like it's a rushed process. So, or similarly, with somebody that's an S, they're very empathetic. They don't want to make mistakes. They don't want to rock the boat or make any waves. Similarly, if we go back to our, say, D or even I tendencies of kind of over the top communication, over the top hand gestures, like encroaching in space and stuff like that, that's like opposite magnets, and it can create some challenges. Can you think of any times where you're like, oh yeah, okay, I've done that before?
So, especially recently, since you and I have talked about the behavioral styles, I have made it conscious that while I'm building that rapport, but I am asking all those basic questions because it is really just 5 things. It's income, assets, debt, credit, and then the property itself. But man, there's so much more because I don't know what their short-term goals. I don't know what their long-term goals. Is there a change in the familia status? But what I've learned is share my stories because after 30 years, I've got some really, really good ones and I've got some really, really bad ones. And I can share that because when I'm listening, I'm thinking, who am I dealing with here? Is it the engineer that wants to know everything about every single number? Or is it the first-time home buyer that has the dream? Their parents referred them to me. They said, just do whatever Steve says, so they trust me. They just want to know, what's my payment and how much cash do I need to bring to the closing? They could give a hoot about anything else because they know Steve's going to take care of them.
Right.
So you have to figure out who your D's, who your I's, who your S's, who your C's are, because you have to deal with them because that is part of building the rapport and the trust. So they become a raving fan and hopefully a repeat client down the road.
Yeah. So, I love that. And in listening to what you just shared, something came to mind because you started off the conversation answering my question that you were the hardest to coach. But we're also thinking, or I'm thinking now about how good you are with those prospects and handling them, right? So is it safe for me to infer from the 2 different stories that you were telling, inside the walls and outside the walls, that your bigger challenge is actually working inside the walls?
Well, it goes back to my behavioral, my behavioral style of being direct. So what we've done, because I'm the 2-finger typist, so my emails are all short. They're very direct. So what I've done to change that is I meet with my team every day, video, and we go over every conversation, everything I discussed the day before. We review things from the day before. We set up things. I tell them what I'm going to be doing so that they know, because I need them to know that I'm going hunting. And when I bring back that meal, we got to prepare it and serve it and be the best supper anybody's ever had at the end.
Love it.
Because I need them to be raving fans and I need the referral business.
Yeah.
Because this old dog don't like going hunting a whole lot.
Maybe not at 65 anymore, huh? You still get the thrill of the chase, I'm sure.
It's why
it really
I
never
still do
leaves
it.
the blood, right?
It doesn't. Seeing the excitement of especially a first-time home buyer
Yeah.
making that first huge investment is just, it's magic to me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's magic.
With the video meeting that you're having with your team, with as much specificity as possible, how exactly do you end that video meeting?
I try to keep it at 15 minutes,
Okay.
no shorter, no longer. I don't care if we got 20 deals in the pipeline or 5.
Okay.
We keep it at 15 minutes. And when it's less, we talk about our team too, because I want to make the team better.
Okay.
So literally, that is so funny. So literally, I just got back from a vacation and I was reading a book and we were talking, we were reading about the team and the building. So I did a self-assessment for them to fill out about themselves and about me and be totally brutally honest, because I want to find out what I can do to be better,
Okay.
what they can do to be better, and how I can help them get better.
Okay.
So this is a work in progress now.
So what did the results come back?
They're filling.
Oh, they're doing it now.
I am
as we speak.
So
okay.
your little cheat sheet here is going to be really good. If you can't see it, but I got a little cheat sheet of what the styles of a D, an I, an S, and a C are.
Yeah.
But it is so cool because I've got them all covered on my team. I got some deep C's. I got some S's.
Yeah.
I'm the D and the I, and Amy's somewhat in the middle, but
So the reason I asked the question is, and maybe you do this and just didn't think to offer it up, knowing that your communication tendencies are bullet points and you know what you're thinking as far as what needs to be done. You're also thinking this is easy or simple. It's straightforward. So you have the bullet point communication style, right? So at the very end, a great parting question is, who has questions? So you can say, for me, even just the way I communicate, which D's 3 out of 4 for me, or actually 4 out of 4 for me, I can get lost in detail sometimes. And so I have to stop and pause and go, especially based on body language, but not all the time do people give me the right signal. So I pause and I ask, did I explain that well? And that gives them an opportunity to say yes or no. And you can also say, guys, I know how I tend to, you can just come out and say it. I know how I tend to communicate. Who has clarifying questions?
So that's funny you should say that. So now that you said be specific, what I do at the very end every time is thank them for everything they do. And is there anything I can do to help you?
Okay.
And they'll think about it for a minute and they'll say, oh, can you call so-and-so and get this? Or, hey, I'm not sure if they're picking State Farm or, Doris Gibbons for their insurance.
Yeah.
I'm like, let me reach out. Let me get that, because that is and determines part of a principal, interest, taxes, and insurance payment. I mean, that's a big part of it. So if I can take something off their plate, and that gives me a chance to make a phone call, communicate with my borrower on a positive basis, and ask for a referral.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you said something really important there. Ask for a referral.
I
got to ask for referrals.
Got to keep it. Got to keep it going.
Just out of curiosity on that vein for just a second, for folks that have decided to not use you for whatever reason, or couldn't, maybe you couldn't make the numbers work. That's an option as well.
It happens.
Do you still find yourself asking them for referrals?
Oh, I absolutely do.
Okay.
And I get them.
That's good.
Because sometimes they think getting a better rate is better. Well, sometimes the cheapest is not always the best. And they find
Yeah.
out after the fact, and then they come back and like, dude, I know I saved an eighth or a quarter of a point, but it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
It was nothing like the experience I had with you. And I'm like, hey, next time. And they're like, absolutely.
No, that's good. It's so often we hope / expect to get referrals from our clients, but we have to remember that we're not for everybody. But we can still ask that person for a referral also. Because just because I'm not right for you, you may know somebody I am right for. And if I didn't ask you, well, then that opportunity doesn't get passed, right? They're not thinking of it. They're just thinking about that specific transaction. And they're like, oh, well, we're not going to work together. And off they go. Off you both go. So it's imperative we ask for referrals from everyone.
I have what's called a birthday campaign. So every day I get a printout of all my clients' birthdays, and I call them, and I just say, hey, just want to wish you a happy birthday. And now that I'm an old dog, I'm like, happy birthday, young man, happy birthday, young woman. And then as long as they're younger than me, I say, happy 55th, hope you're enjoying your day. By the way, if you, your friends, your family, your coworkers ever have a mortgage question, don't keep me a secret.
Yeah.
And then I just say, hey, I hope you got me in your phone as the mortgage guy.
Yeah.
513-615-5484. Steve L at uhm.com. Text me, call me, email me. Have a great day. Boom.
It's so beautiful. You just leaned into everything that screams, I'm a high I and I'm a high D.
I don't scream it. It's in there.
It's not, so we make fun of that. That's the best part about leaning into what these tendencies are. It's not that somebody that's a high S or C couldn't or wouldn't send thank you cards or notes or whatever. Generally speaking, it's not top of mind. Being on the introverted side, that is not a normal thing. So I'm a high S. I will tell you that from a business practice, and you are awesome at this, it makes a lot, actually, you're the reason I do this. It makes a lot of sense after a great meeting to send somebody a thank you card in the mail. Not only does it scream appreciation, but it's also old school. It's not sending an email,
so
right? And it's just different having that thank you card. I have to work at it because it's not a natural tendency for me. Even though you know me as an outgoing guy, S's are people-oriented styles. They're just not the same type of outgoing person that a high I is. And so where it comes supernatural, me, I have the thank you cards and I have to put them in a spot where I remember that they're there so that after I have the meeting, I know to send the darn thing.
No. So you're giving me too much credit. So
okay.
It is not top of mind. So part of our coaching program at Union Home Mortgage is the things we need to do. And my checklist of, I got to call so many people, I got to meet so many people, I got to have so many events, and on that sheet, it's thank yous.
Okay, good.
So it's right there. And my thank you letters are right there, and I see them. And then
I feel good now.
You should. You should, because that's not something you do. But I just got one from somebody who I always send thank yous to. And I knew it as soon as I got the envelope. I knew what it was, but it was so cool to have that thank you. And it's always personalized because it's handwritten.
Yeah.
And it's a good feeling that somebody thanked you for something you did to help them.
Man, this is really a lot of great stuff here. I'm going to circle back a little bit, though, to the office and how we started the conversation. If you were looking at the various conversations, meetings, et cetera, that come up, maybe not every day, but probably every week, what is something that, I'm just going to use the word frustrating because that's just the word that's coming to mind right now, but it always happens, or it happens more than you would like it to?
Well, that's probably just part of my business, but underwriting is the assessment of the repayment of the loan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's their job.
Yeah.
You have to have, and I try to. Well, I don't. I get all the information. My team collects all the information. We want to have all the facts of this opportunity to help this family, income, assets, debt, credit, as clean of a package as we can. But the underwriter, being a very high C and data driven, is basically conditions.
Yeah.
And I try to get as few conditions as I can. I try to do a perfect file, but very rarely, I mean, we got some really good ones, but very rarely do we get some without any conditions. And it would be my dream to have every file with no conditions.
Sure.
But because every file is different, every single file, because every story is different, because everybody's in a different point in their life.
Yeah.
So
actually, so this turned out to be a great example. At first, when you started to share about underwriting, I was like, well, that's kind of a technical thing and has nothing to do with DISC. But it actually does with what you just shared. Union Home Mortgage has what I believe, from what I understand, and other lending institutions, a pretty unique model where you guys actually service most of your loans, right? So the underwriter has they always, no matter the organization, they have a really important role, but especially so for you guys since you're servicing the loans. So,
not only is it a role, they're vested.
Yeah.
Because this could come back.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
We are not in the business of owning real estate.
Right.
We're in the business of
handling mortgages.
Yeah. And helping people.
So what's great there is they are looking at a spreadsheet, and I would be willing to bet, at least again, these are tendencies and rules, right? Nothing is set in stone, but tendencies and rules. Not only from a style perspective, I'm going to get to that in a second, which is why this is a perfect example. Not only from their communication style perspective, but also obviously company rules, regulatory rules, like because of the business that you're in. But look, we're just talking about their behavior and communication tendencies.
I get it.
So they're staring at a spreadsheet, and as a rule, it's black and white. Yes, we can write the loan. No, we cannot write the loan. And then we send the email to Steve. And Steve sees the rejection. And Steve, who's a high D, who is a hunter, is like, and wants to get all of the loans. Even though Steve knows he can't get all the loans, Steve still wants all the loans. Is that fair to say?
That's absolutely fair to say.
Okay. So this is where the styles conflict, even though we need both. We know we need both, but specific to, we keep using you in the example to everyone like you, who is that high D hunter. And you went like this earlier. A common tendency for high Ds is rules are meant to be broken.
Or bent.
At least bent in my favor.
Absolutely.
Right? Bent in my favor.
In my customer's favor.
Of course.
Because something happened. They had a glitch in their credit because something happened in their life. A divorce, loss of a job, a layoff, a medical, and all those things are not in that black and white checkbox.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, man, this is a life curveball that they were thrown. There's still a good risk. Well, they don't meet the 660 minimum credit score. I'm like, oh, here's
Steve's D comes out.
Yep, let's go up. We're going up, and that's when I say, hey, I'm going to escalate this to management, and they're like, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah,
I'm doing it, and I get it.
Sure,
because they are invested. They are protecting the risk because we are servicing $48 billion worth of mortgages.
Yeah.
And that's how our company survives.
Right.
And that's why we're growing and everybody else is going out of business.
Yeah. No, you guys obviously do a lot of things really, really well. with what you've shared and talking with your counterpart, Teresa, who I know really well, obviously, you guys do a lot of things really, really well. It's exciting. You guys just came back from a training last week, right? Company-wide training in Columbus, where just, obviously this is a side note, but a lot of great stuff going on in meetings like that.
It's a bunch of partners trying to make other partners and the company better.
Yeah, that's exciting.
And then this coming week, we go for 3 days with our coaching. So it's PCP, it's partners coaching partners, and we all share ideas on how to make each other better and improve our businesses.
Yeah,
and,
fantastic.
Yeah, so
love that. No, so that was a great example. I didn't know what was going to come out when I asked you what keeps coming up that's frustrating, because ultimately the goal is, well, how do we make it better? And in a way, you can't, because of what they're doing and what their role is. In another way, you can, if you step out of your D-ness for a second, right? And lean more into your S, the empathy person, and wanting to connect with them better so that you can have a more meaningful conversation and set the competitive person aside for a second. Because again, remember, you're going to their office now. You're calling them, which means you're going to their office. You're emailing them, which means you're going to their office. So again, that's like Jim's made up etiquette. If you're going to talk to somebody, you got to step into their style. If they're coming to you, they got to step into your style. So that's just how it works better.
I'm actually going to use that in my head, because I think one of the things that we do as a team too is we have a conversation log. So they write down things that I pick up from a client, because they only email and text to clients.
Yeah.
They don't have the conversations.
Right.
I'm the conversation. So I'm going to use that, stepping into their office and changing that head and getting into that I, that S, that C. But because we communicate verbally and visually every day, that helps tremendously.
Oh, absolutely.
Tremendously.
Absolutely.
And I do it every day. Even if we don't have anything, we still have a conversation. So
no, that's great. So my whole thing with this is, I said it earlier, we're all smart people. Like, we're smart. And most people have been around the block a few times, and we can read people. A common term or phrase that I hear people use is, well, I can be a chameleon and I can, give what I'm getting, or whatever that might be. I agree with all of that. But what I've learned is, when we really dive into what DISC teaches us, instead of doing it accidentally and learning over years, we can do in minutes and do it intentionally and connect faster. And that's the whole point of having better sales conversations, which sales conversations can happen internally also, because if we're really being literal about who we have as customers, we have internal customers, right? Your underwriters, your compliance team, they are your customers inside the business. And then the company has the actual customer outside of the business, right? So you're interfacing with both every single day and trying to balance everything, to your point, so these people can have that dream of home ownership.
and that's what a sales leader does. And that's how you run your business. And because my business is a business inside the business.
Yes.
And everybody's a customer.
Yes.
Everybody.
Pretty much.
So, and I don't know about a chameleon, but understanding where everybody's coming from, what motivates them, what their goals are, inside and out. So we're not just talking about the customer, because I know what fires my girls up.
Right.
And when I send them a photo at a closing, that's their emotional too, because they love helping people too.
No doubt. No, that's awesome.
In the business.
And I guess to expand on the chameleon part is, when I've heard people say that, they're just saying, look, I've been at this for a while. I can read body language. I can hear tone. I can put the pieces together and understand that I'm vibing with them or I'm not. I need to change some things. And so my whole position on all of this is they had been giving you signals from the minute they opened their mouth, with their body language, with their tone, with their word choice. See, you ask the same questions of everybody because you need to know the same information. So everyone answers those questions, but everyone answers them differently.
Absolutely.
They have different ways to say the same thing. So a D is going to give you the same answer as is an I, an S, and a C, but they're going to use different words. And those different words become indicators as to who you're talking to. It's that type, being proactive and intentional with listening to those cues so that we can go, okay, I get it. Like if someone is giving you an answer and they go off on a tangent telling a story about a vacation or what happened to them yesterday or whatever, highly likely they're an I, because it's personal and relational and that's just what they do. An S might use a couple words and then go back and change those words because they think there's a better way to say it because they want to be politically correct and not offend anybody. A C is going to give you way more detail than you asked for. And you already know a D is just going to go, yes, no, done, move on.
Beautiful. I love me some Ds. But that's not how it happens. That's not how it works.
No.
And I will share this with you too after these years. So when I have a referral partner refer someone to me,
Yeah.
I call that referral partner first and say, how do you know so-and-so? How did you run across them? Who's the decision maker? What kind of things did you pick up? Because I want to be prepared for that warm handoff,
Yeah, man.
instead of having it cold. So, and my agents are impressed that I do that
Yeah.
too. Because, hey, I'm going to call these guys this afternoon. You just gave me that referral less than an hour ago. I'll call them this afternoon. Hey, tell me a little bit about how do you know them? How are
Yep.
you connected with them?
Yep.
What are they looking at? Who's the decision maker? What kind? And I say, are they, is it a 25-year-old
Yeah.
accountant buying their first house, or is it a 55-year-old electrical engineer at GE?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I got to be prepared for that.
I love it.
Because the GE guy, I got to get my checklist out, and the 25-year-old, I just got to educate and make her comfortable.
Yeah.
And just get the information I need, and then tell her what the next step is, because that's what people need to be
Process oriented for sure.
Yeah.
Now you're talking like next level sales stuff, which it shouldn't be next level, but it should be common. Ideally, with a referral, you would kind of get that information. By the way, so speaking of that, we'll go down that path for just a second. Coaching people on how to refer you, I don't think happens really ever. The folks that I've run into and people that try to refer to me, the only time it's gone well is if I've actually had an opportunity to spend time with them to say, here are 2 sentences to use. Don't say anything else. Don't answer any questions because you don't know what the actual answers to the questions are. Just say, hey, you need to meet Jim. I have no idea if it's going to make sense for you guys to connect, but I know it makes sense to have a 15-minute conversation. And that's it. But folks that learn of me or meet me briefly and we haven't had a chance, but something sparked in their mind and they go and refer, it's usually a super cold referral. Someone reaches out to me saying, hey, so-and-so said to reach out, as opposed to you doing a warm introduction between the two. There's an art to getting referrals, getting good referrals. Obviously, no connection to disc per se, but there's an art to giving good referrals, because you can't turn everybody into your salesperson, but you can turn them into a good referral partner.
I agree with that 100%. But I think there is a disc connection. And you're right. That is next level sales, coaching people. That is one of the things we do at PCP. But because every real estate partner does business different. than the guy next to him.
Sure.
So, one guy puts us all in a group text. Says, "Have at it, guys."
Right.
Where the other guy says, "I'm going to share Steve's app with you," because they're more young, technical savvy,
Yep.
likes to do everything on their phone. Or I have the 92-year-old dad that wants to co-sign for the daughter who, "Steve, I can't even do anything. I don't even have an iPhone. I have a laptop. I'm not real good at it. Hey, why don't I just ask you the questions and I'll fill out the application for you?" So you have to do everything.
Yeah.
Every situation's different. So
Brought up realtors. I was speaking with a trainer once, and we were talking about DISC and everything, and it was a great conversation, just like you and I had the first time. And she was talking about how when I was explaining to her the styles and how they present themselves, she was like, "Oh man, I have this one realtor who's obviously a really high C. She sends paragraphs of information in her emails, and then nobody responds."
I wouldn't even read it.
I know you wouldn't read it because a D is not going to read it.
No, I'm not going to read it.
An I's going to lose interest about 5 sentences in because it's not exciting anymore. An S will read probably most of it. C's love it. But here's the thing. Statistically, again, from the organization that we get our assessments from, most people are S's and I's. Most people are people. C's and D's are task-oriented. So if you are a high C as a realtor, and which a high C believes more information is better because you need a lot of information to make a great decision. And that's okay to feel that. I mean, that's how they process and that's how they decide what they're going to buy, especially bigger purchases. But the S and the I, they need connection. And when you spew a bunch of facts about how the mortgage is going to, or how the process is going to work and first step, second, all that stuff, it's not that that's not important. That's not how you create relationships, right? You create relationships by having great conversations, and you have great conversations by appealing to who they are at their core, the way they like to be communicated to, the way they communicate. So that's why knowing these things allows us to connect better. Same thing as a D, though. If you can lose an I or an S very quickly by speaking rapidly in bullet points, asking for fast decisions and things like that. So when we look at these styles and not knowing it, that's why I give you a bunch of credit, just having a lot of wisdom and experience, most of it self-taught over decades of doing this. But there are salespeople that are obviously high I's, and they will talk right through a sale because they're relational and they talk. That's how I's are. Their energy is in social, in speaking. And someone will say, "Let's do this," and they'll just keep talking. And then they lose the sale. It happens.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah. D's miss the cues and they want to get right to the signing of the contract. And the person's going, "Well, wait, but I have questions." And they're like, "Why? This is easy. This totally makes sense. Just sign the darn contract." S's similar challenges, C's similar challenges, just whatever it is for their particular styles, right? And so that's why I loved having these types of conversations, because when we get real intentional about what DISC tells us, we can really connect with people faster.
And more efficiently.
Yes.
So when we did our first lunch and learn with our realtor class, I think, what do we have, 20, 25?
About 25 people, yeah.
25 people. I got the most positive feedback.
I actually love working with realtors. I've worked with a few realtors over the years. The reason why I love working with realtors is because it feels like they are in a totally reactive business.
Totally.
Which you're in that business, same business. They're your partners. You're their partner. Prospects are calling you for pre-approvals. They're telling prospects to call you for pre-approvals. You're getting stuff on a Saturday in the evenings. Like all of that, right?
Happens all the time.
What I love is having conversations with them. And honestly, there are other professions that feel the same way. Like we live on our phones and we got to answer it because who knows what's going to happen and all that kind of stuff, right? But I love asking some really, really pointed questions that get them to kind of rethink that process and not changing it, because the industry is the industry, but we can tweak it to be better at how we approach our time, how we approach getting prospects, creating a database of names that ultimately becomes our CRM of opportunities, all of that. And it's a lot of fun helping them realize it can be done slightly differently, just slightly. Like I said, we're not changing the industry, but we can certainly tweak how it's approached. And the looks on their faces, it's fun because when you come into an organization, and this is like any business. We've been doing it this way for 5 years, 10 years, 100 years. You just keep doing it the way you're taught how to do it. And until somebody stops for a second and steps backwards and goes, hey, why do we do it that way? You just keep doing it that way, right? Well, I get to be the objective guy in the room and go, hey, why do we do it that way? And then I hear all the becauses and whys, and most of them make a lot of sense. And then some of them I just challenge, and they go, oh, good question. I don't know. It's just the way we've always done it.
And that's why I think the DISC behavioral styles are so needed to discuss, especially with a realtor trying to grow their business, because
100%.
they need to be able to communicate, but they do. They're just looking for that next client, that next listing, because that's how they make their money. And I think it's developing that and improving their style and their communication. It'd be huge.
No, I love that. Let's put this in perspective for a second. Every business has competitors. Every business.
Yep.
So depending on your business, whether it's products or services, you may have 2 or 3 competitors. You may have 30 competitors, each with 1 to 10 salespeople, right? So now we have anywhere from, say, 3 to 5 salespeople, competitors, to 300. There are like 9,000 realtors just in Cincinnati, the greater tri-state area, right? Northern Kentucky, et cetera. And how do you come across as different? How many mortgage people are there in the area? Do you know?
Probably 1,500.
Okay, so a lot.
It's saturated when we're all going after the same piece of the pie.
Yes, exactly correct. And so as an organization, whether it's a brokerage or Union Home Mortgage, the organization probably has some unique components to it. But at the end of the day, people are usually not buying, if you will. They're not buying the organization. They're buying the salesperson. So they're buying you. They're buying the realtor. They're buying that partnership, even in some cases, depending on how you present yourself in the marketplace. Because sometimes I know that happens. But ultimately, they're buying you and they're buying the realtor.
Because they are depending on a professional
Yes.
to give them the best advice, because this is the largest investment they're making in their life.
Correct.
And our job is to help create wealth through that real estate, because that is the number one creator of wealth in the United States.
Yeah.
And we want to keep that happening. So,
yeah, no, that's a great point. And to tie this all together, especially with the last couple pieces we were just talking about, understanding the person faster is going to give you an edge. Because if everyone else sounds the same and it's just, say, TV static noise, well, I don't know if everybody knows what that is anymore. Now that everything is live streamed.
You and I do.
We know what that is.
1:30 on a Saturday night after the cool ghoul got over.
Yeah, exactly. So amidst all the noise, how do you stand out? And if I understand what you're giving me from a communication style and I get it because I've studied it, I can connect faster. I have a much better chance of you partnering with me than one of my competitors. And that's why I'm doing this, how to have better sales conversations. So Steve, that's our time, man. We blew through the hour already. I really appreciate you coming out and sharing some of your wisdom with the group. And I love hearing what Union Home Mortgage is doing. As a thank you, you didn't know this before you came today, but I have some content on DISC strategies and how to get better at DISC. You're going to get that content now just for being my guest today. So you're going to enjoy that content. And I look forward to hearing your feedback on how it goes. And for all of you, thank you for attending another episode of The Adaptive Seller. But before we go, Steve, if anyone needs a mortgage, how do they get a hold of you?
First of all, man, I'm looking forward to this content you're talking about, because just with the stuff we've talked about, it was fantastic. But hey, if you have any mortgage questions at all, Steve Loechtenfeldt, Union Home Mortgage, cell number 513-615-5484, stevell@uhm.com if you want to email.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, everybody.